Welcome to the Macmillan Report. I'm Marilyn Wilkes, your host, and our guest is David Cameron, Professor of Political Science at Yale and the Director of the Program in European Union Studies at the Macmillan Center. Professor Cameron teaches courses on European politics and the European Union. Over the past several weeks, the European Union has been caught up in a crisis over the size of the budget deficit in Greece. There's been speculation that Greece might default on its debt and may need a bailout by other member states of the EU or even the IMF. There's even been speculation that Greece might be forced to give up the euro and leave the Eurozone. Some think the crisis could spread to other countries in southern Europe, Spain, Portugal, Italy, that, like Greece, participate in the Eurozone but have large budget deficits and high levels of debt. Meanwhile, as we recently saw in Greece, there have been huge demonstrations and strikes protesting the government's efforts to reduce their deficits. Professor Cameron joins us today to discuss the current Eurozone crisis, why it has arisen and what's likely to happen in the near future and the longer term. Welcome, Professor Cameron.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Why did this crisis arise?
Well, this crisis arose for several reasons. A year ago, Greece projected a deficit of 5% of its GDP. There was an election in October, last October, and a new government came into office, and it reported that Greece's deficit figures were not correct, and in fact, the deficit would be, rather than 5%, about 13% of GDP.
Wow.
And they said that the previous government had falsified the figures. That added a strong sense of anxiety among those who hold the very large amount of debt that Greece has in the world, some 300 billion euros. So that's a real problem, that the deficit is so high in a country that has such a high debt, and the credibility issues. So those taken together really created a problem. Greece has to go into the markets repeatedly this year to raise money, about 55 billion euros. And investors are somewhat anxious and reluctant and concerned about whether Greece can pay back its debt and whether it might instead default or the EU might have to intervene. But those are some of the background features that have come into play in the last month or so.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the deficit. Why is it such an important issue for Greece and the other countries that participate in the Eurozone?
Okay, the Eurozone is the set of member states of the European Union